is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central this evening. It's now going on 9:30 and we're just now getting on. Whew. As you know, life goes on. Man, we always have something to deal with. Some little anomaly. So tonight we're going to be reading a story. And the story is, let's see if I can show it to you. Boom. Oops. Nope. Not the right one yet. Okay. Let's see. The story tonight is about the Montgomery bus boycott. There we go. And you can see, there we go, the cover of the story. So this is another first for us. We'll be reading a story tonight that is a digital. We'll be reading a digital story to you. So this will be one of the first times we're reading one that's actually digital. This one we did not have the original paper copy in front of us to use as a to read from, which we have been having. So yeah, so another first. Make sure while we're doing this that you go ahead and give us a like. If you're looking at us on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're seeing us on YouTube, and of course pass on the word to your family and friends about what we're doing here at Black Facts. So we're going to go ahead and read do our proverb today, and then we'll get right back to our story. Right, there we go. Yeah, this is a very good one here. Quite apropos. There's always something in here. This thing is almost as good as a Bible. I just open it, and it always opens to a very appropriate proverb. I find Proverbs to be very useful. When one is in trouble, one remembers God. When one is in trouble, one remembers God. So you might not remember him before you're in trouble, but you certainly will when you are. And there we go. And that is a proverb from, looks like it's from Nigeria or Niger. Nope, it's from Nigeria. Proverb from Nigeria. All right, and moving right along. Let's go ahead and transition back to our book. So this goes along with the story we had been reading, March, book 1. And this one is, it's a period piece. So this one was done at the time that the marches were going on, that these things were happening or had just happened. And actually John Lewis's book about the march, or his marches, was inspired by this very book right here. So let's go ahead and see what it's all about. Thank you for letting me know what time it is. I really appreciate that. My computer always wants to let me know exactly what time it is. What time? Okay, so let's just move this over here where I can get to it easily. Oops. Doesn't want to switch. Why doesn't it want to switch? Huh. How about now? Okay, switch then. All right, and there we go. So, in Montgomery, Alabama, 50,000 Negroes found a new way to work for freedom without violence and without hating. Because they did, they put new hope in all men who seek brotherhood and who know you don't build it with bullets. No one person made the Montgomery story, but one man's name stood out among the hundreds who worked so hard and unselfishly, and that man was 29-year-old Martin Luther King Jr., minister of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church and the president of the Montgomery Improvement Association. Young Martin grew up in the shadow of the church. His father was pastor of one of the largest Baptist churches in Atlanta, where Martin was born. The basic book in the King house was the Bible. From it, young Martin early learned Jesus' teachings about love and its power. And then you see a picture of his father, and his father saying, reading from the book and saying to him, and love thy neighbor as thyself. You can imagine his father saying that to him in a preachy tone. Martin finished high school at 15 years old and entered Morehouse College in Atlanta. There he worked with the city's intercollegiate Christian council with both white and colored students. Because in that day, that's one of the words that was used for black folks were colored folks. Some of us don't like discrimination either, Martin, says the young lady on the other side of the table from him. At Crozier Seminary, one of 6 Negroes among nearly 100 students, he was elected president of the student body and graduated at the head of his class. And so one of the other students says to Martin, "Where to now, Martin?" And he says, "To Boston for more study. I need to know more before I start preaching." While he studied for a PhD degree at Boston University, he met and married Coretta Scott, a pretty young singer. "Why, I never thought I'd marry a preacher." "I'm glad you changed your mind, Coretta." Northern churches were open to the young minister, but in 1954, Martin Luther King and his bride decided to return to the South. "It's here that God wants me to be. I know this now, Coretta." And so they head back down south. Some people say they thought down south was a place. And the way that their friends talked about going down south every summer, they thought they were going somewhere. They didn't know it was just a colloquialism. That's what they call that, colloquialisms. All right, well, I guess we're going to have to flip it like this. I don't know why it doesn't want to flip the regular way like it usually does. Oh, I know why. Maybe it's because I didn't put on here. I didn't go to, let's go here and then go back to over there. Okay, now let's try it and see if it'll do it now. All right, let's see. Now let's try it. No, you know what? I know what it is. I think this thing here is missing a battery. All right, so we'll keep reading while I fix the battery. 1 year later, Montgomery, Alabama. Oops, wait a minute. On the wrong page here still. Let's see what page am I on here. Nope, still need to go back one. There we go. 1 year later, Montgomery, Alabama. "I am a peaceful man, but I have a gun. For a long time, I thought I might have to use it someday. Now, I don't know. Call me Jones. My name it doesn't matter, but my story is important for you as well as me. We're all caught up in it one way or another. I live in Montgomery, Alabama. I love Montgomery, but I've hated it too. A Negro anywhere in the deep South has a hard time. Jim Crow sits mighty heavy on a man's spirit. Snap it up, boy. I want that car in a hurry," says the man who has him detailing his car. People lived scared under Jim Crow. I was scared too. You never know when something might bust out. And I have a wife and a baby. Say hello to daddy. Dad-da, dad-da. And how's my little boy today? Dad-da, dad-da. Now take Rosa Parks. She really had courage. Sat there in the bus that night and just quietly said, "No, when the bus driver told her to give her seat to a white man. For the last time, nigger, are you getting up or aren't you? We used to play, the baby and I, right next to the bureau with that loaded gun. I wondered if I'd have the courage to use it to defend my family. Lately, I've started to wonder if that really would be courage. Oh, sorry, I read those in the wrong order. Oh, my bad. Okay, here we go. Let's go on to the next page. Boom. All right, here we go. Because she was tired, Rosa didn't get up from that bus. And not only that, her feet ached. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in the bus. She was arrested. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was getting sick and tired of all this. I woke up my wife. Something ought to be done. Rosa's a good woman and not a troublemaker. They had no right arresting her. Now, let's try it now. Let's see what happens. But what can we do? I decided to talk to some of my friends the very next day. They make us move if any white person wants our seat. We ought to protest and not ride the buses for a day. Now, here's my plan. We got out a mimeograph sheet protesting what had happened to Rosa Parks and calling for a one-day boycott of the buses. There are 50,000 Negroes in Montgomery. How many of them can we reach with just a few hundred copies of this leaflet? Let's just hope that those who read it spread the word. That night, word was flashed around town that the protest was set for the next day. You hear the news? Sure did. Nobody's going to ride the buses tomorrow. The newspapers of Montgomery helped more than they knew. Look at this. They've printed it up big for everyone to read. That's wonderful. We couldn't have reached that many people with our little sheet. Now everyone will know what to do. All right, now let's see. Bam, there we go. Okay, nothing but a battery problem. All right, technology solved. December 5th, 1955, the day of the protest. Everyone walked or rode in a friend's car or hitched a ride with Negro taxi drivers. Our protest is a success. No one's riding those buses. During the day, we formed a committee. That night, we had meetings in the churches. We're calling ourselves the Montgomery Improvement Association. We're going to see to it that Negroes are treated fairly on the buses of Montgomery. The crowds were huge. We used loudspeakers so those who couldn't get in could hear what was happening from out on the streets. I want you to meet the leader we have chosen today. It's the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. At that time, I knew Martin Luther King only slightly, but I soon learned that a new and important leader had come on the scene, one America would feel proud of. You all know of the success of our one-day protest, but a single day is not enough. Let's stay the course. Off them buses until we can ride them with dignity. Let's walk to freedom. This is a nonviolent protest against injustice. Our chief weapons are moral and spiritual forces we depend on. Love and goodwill toward all men must be at the forefront of our movement if it is to be successful. And boom, there we go. All right. And so began the walk to freedom. During the day we walked. At night we held prayer meetings. Are we gonna ride those buses? No, says the crowd. Are we gonna walk with the feet God gave us? Yes, says the crowd. Yes, better to walk with dignity than ride in humiliation. We walked, and then we walked some more. And sometimes we thumbed a ride like any hitchhiker. Room for everybody, says the taxi driver. Step right in, no charge. That's just great. Otherwise, I have to walk 4 miles to work. Things were going almost too good. There was bound to be some trouble. Uh, Motorcycle cop pulls over the taxi driver. You failed to signal for a turn. But I didn't turn at all. I've been driving straight down the road for more than a mile. Tell it to the judge. I'm giving you a ticket anyway. The police officers kept bothering us. They even stopped Martin Luther King's car. What's the charge, officer? 30 miles in a 25-mile zone. Why don't you people get wise to yourselves and give up this boycott and stuff? We weren't going to give up. We decided to buy station wagons with contributions sent in by white and Negro sympathizers all over the country. DJ Sims and Rufus Lewis laid out the routes and pickup points. Before we realized it, we had a transportation system of our own. Now that's what should have been happening from the get-go. Yeah, that's what, when we read that story last night about Tulsa, they had their own bus lines in Tulsa. Okay, so they didn't have to deal with this. January 30th, 1956. Something happened on that day that touched my heart and did something to me. Martin Luther King was speaking at a meeting. This is a spiritual movement. Violence will defeat our purpose. Violence is not only impractical, but immoral. Mrs. King was at home talking to a friend. Coretta, did you hear that? Sounded like someone threw a brick. Why don't we move into the back room where we can talk in peace? Boom! Reverend King, first thing I want you to know is that Coretta and the baby are all right. Then I've got to tell you, they just bombed your house. Martin Luther King rushed home. A crowd was gathered outside. They were in an angry mood, wanting to answer violence with violence. And then King spoke. Please be peaceful. We believe in law and order. We are not advocating violence. I want you to love your enemies better than you love yourself. For what we are doing is right. What we are doing is just. God is with us. Later, we walked back through the night to our homes. If a man can see us, and this man, Mr. Jones, he's thinking, if a man can see his home bombed and not fight back except with love, then there is hope for all of us. Though we tried to love our enemies, their hearts would not soften toward us. In their attempt to break up our bus protest, they indicted 93 of our leaders, including E.D. Nixon of the Sleeping Car Porters Union. Looking for me, says E.D. Nixon to the police at the police department. Well, here I is. We were thrilled to see many of our leaders surrender without being hunted down. Those arrests were last-minute desperation measures on the part of those who knew that someday soon right and justice would prevail. As Reverend Ralph Abernathy said, at this moment the Supreme Court is considering our case against the bus company. One day soon, we're going back to the buses. We must get ready for that day. We began to make preparations for what we would do when we got back on the buses. Things would be different. We acted it all out. Now I'm the bus driver, and Catherine here is coming aboard to pay her fare, and she's coming in through the front door. Move along there, nigger. Get to the back of the bus. Thank you, Mr. Bus Driver, but the back is crowded. I think I'll take this empty seat right here next to you. Well, you're supposed to go to the back, nigger. You know where your place is. And the woman says to herself, arguing won't help. I'll just sit quiet. That was how we got ready to go back on the buses to make sure we wouldn't be accused of violence. We decided to clasp our hands on our laps and not use them against anyone, no matter what happened. Uh-huh. I hadn't heard that part before. That's new. News to me. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. Then I saw a news dispatch that made my heart jump. The U.S. Supreme Court has declared bus segregation illegal in Montgomery. On December 25th, 21st, we went back on the buses. Someone shouted violent, abusive words at a young fellow who was getting on the bus. Once, I would have gotten sore about that and shouted dirty words back and maybe hit back. But on this day, he didn't do it. So, we're going to go ahead and stop right there because I can see our time is well up. And we'll return and read part 2 tomorrow night. Yeah, we'll save a little bit here for tomorrow night, part 2. So, again, like I said, we're doing a bit of a compare and contrast between the life of Malcolm X and the lives of other black folks in other parts of the United States. They came to different conclusions about how to go about solving our problems. But yet and still, we all realized that we did have some problems that needed to be solved. How we solved them is a matter of discussion. So, I hope you're enjoying the story. It's certainly interesting telling it to you. It's the first time I'm reading this, as you can tell, just like it is maybe the first time that you're hearing it. Because this is from an old magazine from way back. I don't know if this was published in the early 60s or the late 50s. But it had to be the early 60s or the late 50s because the Voting Rights Act, I don't think it still hadn't passed yet when this book was written. And it didn't appear as though Dr. King had his doctorate degree yet either because they weren't calling him doctor in the book as well. So if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, give us a like on Facebook, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and then go ahead and tell your friends and your family. Meanwhile, all you little children out there, you know what it's time for you to do. Let me not forget you. Go ahead and lay that little head down on your little pillow, on your little bed. Close those your eyes and wait for that sun to rise. And when you feel those sunbeams beaming down on your eyes, that's when you know it's time to rise and shine, oh children of mine. And in the meantime, you adults, I've already given you your walking orders. You know what to do. Give us the like, the thumbs up, and the heads up with all your friends and your family. And last but not least, don't forget to become a sustaining member, a supporting member of the Black Facts family. It's very easy. Just click the button at the bottom of the page and make your donation. $5 or more is where you start at. You can do it as a one-time donation or recurring donation. We're looking for as many recurring donations as possible because we need to create a wave. We need to create a wave. We can't do it. We can't create a wave on a one-time donation. Those recurring donations, that's how we create the wave. And then we can start to ride that wave. That's what we need to do. We need to create a wave and ride that wave so that we can continue to tell our stories to whoever wants to listen. Our children, your children, their children, whoever wants to listen. It's all freely available right here on the internet. So peace out for now. We'll be back tomorrow at noon, continuing the story of Malcolm X as told by Malcolm X in his autobiography. So stick with us because we're sticking with you. Peace out without a doubt, y'all. Have a good night.